Hey everybody, welcome to art class. My name is Mr. Hatch. Thanks for joining us for this week's video. Let's go find out what we're doing. So our goal in art this week is we're going to learn about art from a diverse culture. We're going to try to encourage art making focused on sculptural form. That means we're going to try to make something that's 3D this week. And we're going to practice developing our skills in art making and self-expression. So what are we looking at? I see big giant heads. It looks like they're made out of stone. They look pretty big. Looks like they're on a hillside or an island. Must be some kind of art. They come from the country of Chile. It's actually an island way off the coast in Chile called Easter Island. But perhaps they remind you of something. I'm going to give you a little clue. This guy lives in a house shaped like one of these. Squidward's house from SpongeBob is kind of based off of the idea of one of these artworks. And if we were to explore the island called Easter Island where these were found, we would actually see hundreds of these. There's about 500 of them on the island. Some of them are bigger than others. They're not all identical, but they all look like people. Well, the truth is these giant rock figures on Easter Island are called Moai. They are monolithic human figures carved by the Rapa Nui people from volcanic tuff between the year 1250 and 1500 AD. While they are often referred to as heads because many are buried to their shoulders, they are actually full-bodied statues. So underneath the ground is the rest of the body for the statue. In fact, on my computer there's an emoji that represents these stone heads, or as we just learned, they're called Moais. So the Moai were built to commemorate the deified ancestors. That means people in your family who have passed away. They believe they go to a place like heaven, and they represent them with these big stone statues, representing important figures and believed to be living faces that watched over and protected the community. They were also built as status symbols and to show the power and prosperity of different clans, which led to a competition to build larger and more elaborate statues. So these were made a long time ago, and they were made to symbolize the ancestors who used to live there. We said they were found in Chile, but Chile is this really long, tall country on the west coast of South America. And if you were to go way, way, way out in the ocean, there's an island called Easter Island. If we zoomed in on this part of the world, you can see Easter Island over here. You might recognize the characters from Moana because that takes place in this part of the world. This is called the Polynesian Triangle. It goes between Hawaii, which is off the coast of the United States, all the way down to New Zealand, which is off the coast of Australia, all the way to Easter Island, which is off the coast of Chile. And there's a whole bunch of other islands in there too. We'll look at some of those artworks as well. So these masks are called tiki masks. There's carvings and statues off the coast in Hawaii. These have some symbolism that relate to their gods that they believed in this part of the world in Hawaii. There's also this art that comes from around New Zealand and other Polynesian tribes. We see lots of cool decorations and abstract line work and designs. I like these fish hook shapes, but this all comes from the Polynesian area. Some pretty cool artwork going on there. But looking at this art, it's not something that was built recently. This is about 500 to 800 years old. That's how the ground wound up moving around, and they didn't really sink, but the earth moves and dust blows and grass grows over stuff. So it's so long ago that the bodies wound up being covered underground. Here you can see some archaeologists or people who study things from long ago. They dug up the base of this one, and you can see how tall they actually are. But these big stone heads were often a mystery for people who discovered them, and they're just so impressive because they're so big and they're kind of neat looking. I like them. This one's even wearing a hat. Some people say the hats were put on later. But they weigh about 14 tons. That's pretty heavy. They were built a while ago, and the longest one is about 21 meters tall. Here's one with painted eyes. They use coral and ground it down to make the white in the eyes. Most of them are pointing inland, but some of them are pointing off to the sea also. So we're going to try to draw one of these moai, or these big stone heads from Easter Island today. And if you want to try to sculpt one, maybe you have clay, you could do one like that. Looks like this one wound up washing down into the ocean, or maybe the ocean went up to it. But let's take a look at these artworks and see if we can't make a sculpture this week and learn a little bit about art from other cultures. If you want to draw some Easter Island heads or moais on the computer, you could definitely do that. If you want to draw one on a piece of paper, we could do that also. Well, you know, I tell you, there's no wrong way to do your art. Let's try to draw some Easter Island heads today. I'll show you how one way you can do that. Basically, I start with kind of like a big, tall 11. I make mine look a little bit bigger on the top so my lines are not parallel. They get a little bit further away at the top. I don't know if you can see that. It's a round shape, so let's put a curved line at the top and a curved line at the bottom to start to give it the look of that 3D form. These moai have a large forehead, so let's divide up that section with another curved line, and we'll draw two long straight lines down in the middle to represent the bridge of the nose. Try to make these lines end at the same spot. Let's get a little bit bigger and draw the nose. That's just a bump you'll put at the bottom. Their eyes are kind of in the shadow, so I like to draw a line to show where the shadow of the eyes are. If you want to color in your eyes or draw the eyes, you can draw a circle there and maybe color in the shadow around the eyes with a black marker or a black crayon. I'll do that quickly. Next, we're going to draw the mouth. They have pretty stiff expressions, so I'm just going to draw a line for the mouth. If you want to draw a little shadow underneath there, you can draw a shadow underneath that as well. Try to make it look a little bit more 3D. They have long, thin ears, so we'll put a long ear that starts about where the eyes are and ends where the nose is. Try to make it match on the other side. If you have room, you can draw the shoulders. Maybe that's where it's sticking in the ground, so I'll chop it off there. And I'll start to show where the arms might be. If you want to add a hat or anything above it, you could put something above it. And that's a simple moai. If you're not building out of clay and you want to make it 3D, sometimes in art we do a little thing called shading. That just means you get it a little bit darker on the sides and then lessen up or lighten up with the pressure on your pencil so the dark gray turns into light gray. And it gives it a little bit more of that 3D look. So use a crayon or a pencil to add this 3D quality to your artwork. And that is what a moai looks like. It's like a statue made out of stone that looks like someone's face. These were much like the ones found on Easter Island. If you enjoy doing that, you can make a couple of them if you want. They don't all have to be the same. I have 2, 3, I have a bunch of these that we drew in school. Why don't you cut those out? Maybe you can find some scrap paper and make your own little island for Easter Island and put your artwork on that island. And that's just one way that you can be creative this week. But this week, I'm also encouraging you to try to play around with some clay. If you have any clay, you can make absolutely anything out of clay, even if it's a cat or an owl or a moai, which is an Easter Island head. I'd love to see what you can build with 3D forms or clay. Remember, art that's not flat is 3D, so perhaps you have other things you can build with. Even if you don't have clay, you could use found objects and things around your home, like paper cups and bottles and cans, or these cardboard paper towel tubes. Even Legos work, or maybe you have a rock you want to paint. All right, boys and girls, I'm here with Big Red. I can't wait to see the artwork you sent me this week. What do you think of the artwork? It totally rocked, Mr. Hatch. Yeah, it sure did rock. Do you know what kind of music the moai statues listen to? I don't know, but I'm sure you're going to tell me. Rock and roll. You betcha. All right, have a good week, boys and girls. Rock on. Bye.
That's all, folks.